on, everybody? Thank you for listening to this episode of the Leadoff. I'm Ashton.
And I'm Tony. Grab that hot tea, coffee, or energy drink of choice, and let's talk sports. Energy drink.
Hot energy drink?
Hot tea, coffee, energy drink.
Hot tea, hot coffee, or energy drink. I think that's the way you're supposed to say it. Grammatically. It's like that hotel sign that said it was French toast or something like that, and it said hot tub at the bottom, but the way they had the words, no commas, it was like, it was biscuits and gravy, hot tub, but the gravy was down there, so it was biscuits, gravy, hot tub.
Oh, like they were stacking the...
Yeah, you know, when you mess the words on the sign, yeah, so it said gravy, hot tub. So yeah, you just need a comma in there. Again, thank you for listening to this episode of The Leadoff. We are getting you ready for your sports weekend. A big weekend it is. I guess if you're a golf fan, a lot of people don't like golf, but the Masters teed off this weekend. Moving into, I guess we're still technically in the second round. Big story, the weather at the Masters at Augusta. A lot of wind. There was actually a couple of trees that fell down.
Yeah.
If you go to our TikTok at Peak One Sports,
it just slightly missed hitting some fans as they ran.
Yeah.
And these were tall trees, big trees, just uprooted. This was a wild.
Yeah, like I said on our TikTok, that video is posted. Right now, the leaderboard, so the Master Brooks Koepka is leading the field at 12 under. Jason Day is tied for 6, 5 under, along with Jordan Spieth. Phil Mickelson's tied for 10th at 4 under. Tiger Woods is even right now, tied for 50th. And big story, amateur Sam Bennett from Texas A&M. He's 23 years old. He's in third place at 8 under.
Yeah, and he was. So what they do is they take the amateur champion and they match the two champions up, and he's played with him shot for shot to start the Masters. This on day one, I mean, he absolutely was dominating for an amateur coming in.
Yeah, an amateur has never won the Masters. Just throwing that out there. It's still a long way to go. A couple more rounds. Yeah. All the people I just listed off did finish their second round, except for Tiger Woods. I think he was 11 in before they they suspended the second round, so he's going to finish off this morning. It's a great leaderboard for the Masters. I know a lot of live golf players are playing in this. We mentioned Phil Mickelson, you have Bubba Watson, Patrick Reed, Dustin Johnson. Brooks Koepka is also a live golfer. Bryson DeChambeau. I think there's 18 total. That's all really the notable ones. And funny enough, I don't have all the statistics in front of me or the tee-off times. It was funny that they were pairing the PGA was pairing a lot of the live golf guys with not so notable alternatives, just so they would tee off early. They wouldn't be on the broadcast.
Yeah.
I know that may change as the tournament goes on, and
then they're going to get rematched.
They get rematched. I just thought that was kind of funny. More of a shot from the PGA at the live golfers. I know that they had said you weren't allowed to play, but clearly that's not the case right now. And for the Masters.
Who was it that said? And man, I heard this week, and it was someone, and maybe they said that if you could be playing at the Masters butt naked, if Tiger Woods is there, nobody's going to even know you were there. Even if you were playing butt naked. That's who people are going to follow here. And that's, if Tiger's there, he's going to get the attention, regardless if he's 100% or not.
Tied for 50th at even. I'm not sure how many golfers make the cut. Surely more than 50. I'm not sure how many, but Tiger Woods in that range to possibly not even make the cut at the Masters.
Well, how much attention is Sam Bennett going to receive going forward? How many of the... You can't call them spectators. What are at the Masters? There's a term you have to use. It's the proper term you have to use there.
I don't know. I think he'll get quite a bit, because if you're going to the Masters, it's hard to go to the Masters. Those aren't your just average spectators. I mean, they have a lot of weird rules that
you have to put in. You don't even get the opportunity to purchase tickets without entering.
No, you have to know
a
somebody
raffle.
too.
Well, you have to enter a raffle. I have my friend Clifton is there now.
Yeah, you're not allowed to have your cell phones.
Yeah,
that's weird. You have to purchase like a little disposable or digital camera.
Yeah.
To be able to take pictures, but I guess in the moment live
they have
news, you're not supposed to.
At the course to use.
A lot of weird rules. I don't know how long when it was. It's just these random golf rules that you don't think about, and I guess it's in the moment you don't want people sharing information, live casting. Tiger Woods shoot. I guess that's why.
Yeah.
Because they allow you to take pictures with digital cameras.
But what about video? They allow you to record video and everything as well, as long as it's not live?
I'm sure, yeah, digital cameras can record a video. You just aren't posting it. You're not streaming it. I don't know. I know people have issues. Other sporting events have issues with live streaming when you're talking about UFC fights and NFL. And they'll just, it's obviously not legal, but they just say you can't do it at all. I suppose. I don't know. We could look more into that. Why you're not allowed to take your cell phone. I can only imagine that being it, because it's not like, well, make sure your cell phone's on silent. You forget because you're allowed to take your cell phone. Other PGA events, just the Masters. Also in the news, Utah Jazz All-Star Lauri Markkanen. He is saying he intends to fulfill his mandatory service in the Finnish military this off-season. Now, Finland requires all male citizens to complete such service before they turn 30. Markkanen, who's turning 26 in May, is, I guess, going to go ahead and finish that service, being as the Jazz are likely not to make the play-in if they haven't been eliminated already. So he would have basic training in Helsinki on the 17th of this month.
Yeah. So he'll spend his off season taking care of that, and that will finalize his obligation to Finland for service.
That's why it sounds like why it's a story. Like, he intends to fulfill it, at least continue. I don't know if you have to just be, I don't know what the terms are, would be for the Finnish military, but on duty or on location for a certain amount of time. But I don't know. This is basic training, so he hasn't started it either. So I don't know how long you have to, what your service is. I know here in the U.S. it's typically 4 years is what you have to finish out on many different factors. But he says, he's quoted as saying it's mandatory, we have to do it, but at the same time, you have to take pride in it too. I think it sets an example to serve, and I'm confident I can do it in a way that's not going to affect my preparation for next season.
I think it's completely commendable of someone that he would take such pride in doing it. Obviously, here in the States, we don't have those requirements, but it's very commendable for anyone that's going to sign up to do that, and especially someone like him. I mean, we've seen things that, the Pat Tillman stuff that do enter. I know there's other NFL players. His name isn't
Pat Tillman. Yeah, you said Pat Tillman.
The Steelers had an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I remember what you're saying. Yeah, because he wanted to go out there. He was the only player who went out there and stood for the national anthem when all that was going on. I don't know how it is to be somebody in who lives in another country, being an immigrant, that you would say, technically he doesn't have to do this.
Yeah.
He just can't go back to his home country and without serving some sort of penalty. But you think, hey, he's an American now. What does he care? But you have that pride to your country, and I'm sure he intends to go back to Finland at some point in his life. He may go back every offseason. Clearly, he's going back this offseason. But yeah, he mentions, hey, it's something you have to do. Like, hey, this is what you have to do, but hey, you make a commitment.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's a mandatory commitment, but
yeah.
I'm sure lots of people flee Finland, or not lots of people, but there are a notable amount of people that flee Finland just to get out of this. But
Yeah.
I mean, typically Finland's not involved in many wars, really, so it's not necessarily like joining the U.S. military and not knowing who knows. In a year there could be another war, and you have to, Finland's one just to kind of stay out of most most conflicts.
Just like here, I mean, there's a good amount of soldiers that are serving the country that are here in the States, continue to do training and just, not that he's going into any active war zones or any active wars. He's just going to be serving his country and giving his time. But again, that's just very commendable that he isn't fighting it or, complaining about it, that is going to take priority and precedence over his off season.
It goes back also to Roger Staubach in the 70s, late 60s and early 70s.
Yeah.
Although he went to the Naval Academy, he knew he was going to have to finish that up.
Yeah.
I say finish it up. Like, this is just a side thing going to the NFL. For him, it was probably everything. Like, he had no... Even if they gave him the option just to go to the NFL and not finish his service, I doubt he would have elected to do that. He would obviously finish, and, he would always go to spring training for the Cowboys, and then the Navy would allow him to do that.
Yeah.
And so, again, I don't know how the Finnish military works, but it seems like he's able to go do this in the off season, still train, practice, and come back and be ready for the start of the Jazz season.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the talk of this Alden Smith. Yesterday, he was ordered to 12 months in jail, stemming from a DUI charge in 2021, where and this is in California, where there were reports of a truck stopped at a stop sign, like at an on-ramp to a freeway, or an on or off ramp to a freeway, and when cops arrived at the scene, to investigate, I guess there was an accident there as well, that he seemed to be intoxicated and the smell of marijuana. So he's now been sentenced, and the judge says this is going to start immediately. As some of you may know, Alden Smith had a stem with the Cowboys, most recently with the Seahawks. Man, is this just another one of those guys that just isn't going to be able to get it straight?
Yeah.
That's your answer?
Yeah, it was.
He is.
Yeah.
Not to make light of this. I mean, this is terrible. And you want to see these guys
somebody with
get
talent,
their life straight.
Yeah, somebody with talent who's been dealing with off the field issues. Played for the 49ers, Cowboys, like you said, Seahawks.
He's pretty much had a career of mishaps off the field.
Yeah, and
when he's healthy and keeping himself straight, he's a very good football player on the field.
And how's this going to affect when he's able to come back after he serves whatever jail time, suspensions, things like that? It's not going to be good news for him.
Yeah, it's sad, but we'll keep an eye on that, and the next 12 months we'll see if any teams. There always is going to be a team. Probably a team like the Raiders. Hate to bash on them, but they are one of those teams that would give someone a second chance.
They like to gamble on players. And
probably pretty much any team that's at the bottom of the league at the time he comes back is just going to be scrambling for some help. That may be.
Yeah, it would be a gamble to say it's low risk, high reward type. Like, you're not going to give him a lot of guaranteed money. I would assume he wouldn't have to take that because the list isn't going to be long of teams that would want to give him a good contract. It would, and he's getting up there in age, but it'd be a gamble. And oddly enough, ironic enough, the Raiders are the team that are in Vegas that would take that gamble.
Yeah. No pun intended.
No pun intended, but a great segue to our live spot for Betalytics. The Betalytics dashboard allows you to quickly identify the top graded best bets and hottest trends. Go to Betalytics.com to start betting smarter today, and that information is in the description box down below. Now, we've been talking about all these alternate uniforms in the thread. and go ahead and let's talk about this week's thread.
Well, it looks like the creamsicles are coming back this season for Tampa Bay. They announced this earlier this year, but it looks like this will be official. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see this. The more modernized uniform styles and helmet styles. But they announced that they will wear their vintage creamsicle uniforms this season, during the 2023 season. And, man, this may be the best look. I wouldn't be mad. And even the Buccaneers have of the modern era of uniforms, I feel like the uniforms that they've been wearing this past season that are more traditional to the original red Buccaneers, that red and pewter, those are great looking uniforms in themselves. But you can't go past these creamsicles now. I mean, this might be, in the NFL, this might be one of the best uniforms. Retro uniforms to come out.
Time changes some things, because these were voted the ugliest uniforms not too long ago. I mean, I say not too long. It might have been 20 years ago. I just remember this being... maybe it's associated with just the terrible teams they had back then in the 70s and 80s.
And I think when you see that...
And even the 90s.
Footage and the way uniform styles tend to work. But as you can see in this photo, I mean, that is a very nice looking...
The more baggy uniforms, I guess.
The longer sleeves and, just these nice tailored uniforms. To me, the red seems much more bold in these than it ever had. That new helmet style. I mean, it really is very University of Tennessee-ish when you look at it. Very similar coloring. I think these are really great.
It's a weird color concept, because you wouldn't think orange and red necessarily go together, especially since it's more of a dull orange, a creamsicle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think they look a lot better. I don't know if it's time or just the updated uniforms. I know this is definitely not their worst uniforms anymore. Going back to the Jameis Winston years, however long
those were bad.
Yeah, they went from what they're wearing now, like you said, the original form of it with just the red and pewter, went to just an odd choice. I don't know. They just wanted to change up things on a completely different level. Then they came back and made, I think, the pewter a little darker. They made the logo much bigger on the helmet. Yeah. But these are great uniforms, and I know we're going to talk about in the future more throwback NFL uniforms, but this might... Yeah, now this is going to compete with one of the better ones.
I think so. And now that anyone that doesn't know that this past year, I believe it was, this past year, teams could start to wear alternate helmets again, where they had the single shell rule in the NFL where you could only wear one helmet shell. You could change out the logos and the face mask.
Yeah.
That's out now, and they can wear these alternate helmets, which in the past some teams tried to do it. The Packers and I think there were some others. The Broncos
did. They just cover up the helmets with a new decal.
So those it would make it tough for teams to do a true throwback uniform. With this helmet change, this gives the teams full reign to come back with alternate uniforms, alternate throwbacks, which I absolutely love. I love this concept much more than I do the color rush that Nike had come out with when Nike took over the uniforms. Where it was nice to see that for a change. The problem with the color rushes is they just do a rush of one color, every team, whatever that is, whether it be yellow or, the Seahawks had that lime green.
I just can remember.
I'd much rather see the Seahawks wear that throwback.
I just know
to
going
their old
back
silver and royal blue.
To Thursday night football when they would typically do the color rush back in the day. I guess to improve ratings because they had terrible matchups.
Yeah,
and maybe that's why I don't think of this fondly because it's Thursday night football terrible. But back when the Tennessee Titans and Jacksonville Jaguars were just the bottom of the NFL pit. And they would wear, it would be all gold for Jacksonville and all sky blue for the Titans.
Yeah,
those are some of the worst uniforms. Yeah. That was when Jacksonville was trying to do the fade helmet that went from black to gold, or vice versa. These uniforms, you know what I'm a big fan of. I've seen uniform concepts of taking a past uniform, a throwback, and using the color concept in new uniforms.
Yeah.
So it'd be like think of the current Buccaneers uniforms, but just with these colors. And that may not do it justice because I think the pewter works so well with those uniforms, especially when they wear the all pewter with the jersey.
Or even think about that. What would be cool is this styling.
I've seen it with
red and pewter in this style and this helmet logo.
I've seen it with Denver where they go back to the original blue instead of the dark blue, but they leave the uniform the way it is, the same logo. Yeah. They just go to the past orange and blue. I think you could probably go, although the Jets uniform is sort of like their throwbacks. I know the helmets are, just with a darker green. But it would just take their current uniforms and go back to the color scheme. Yeah. Which there aren't a whole lot of teams that have just gone off and changed color schemes. I think the Buccaneers are one, the Broncos we talked about. Even, the Titans, which will be in the future, they use pretty much the same color schemes. A little different. They can go back. If they go back to those color schemes, it's not going to change the uniform much. I know the Dolphins. Honestly, I like their uniforms, but it's the I don't want to say the lighter green, the different color. Green. It's not as
teal.
Colors
definitely it's evolved over the years.
Mm-hmm.
For the Dolphins, so I do prefer the more teal color, that older teal color and orange concept, than to what they're kind of going closer to a blue color now.
Yeah, like I said, I like the uniform design. I like the logo. I mean, the classic Dolphin logo.
Since we're talking about color concepts, I'm going to throw out a little bonus here that you weren't even prepared for in the thread this week. And this is one, we don't have any images yet. They haven't announced and they haven't come out. But the Carolina Panthers are actually going to vary their blue color slightly. What it sounds like is maybe just a shade or two. And it sounds darker, more to the blue side versus that kind of a teal blue color, that lighter blue, or not quite Carolina blue, but they're going to maybe go slightly darker. That hasn't been announced officially yet. They've teased it. The Panthers have teased it a little bit on their Twitter, but we will have that as soon as it breaks. You're going to hear it from us.
Have you noticed, like, every week we're doing all Florida teams? Maybe something to do with Florida and uniforms.
I think that they just tend to have some of the hottest uniforms.
Good or bad. I know I talked about the Miami Heat uniforms. Now, we haven't focused on that, but I know I mentioned it with the Miami Marlins and their current uniforms. But we talked about the Marlins, the Rays, the Buccaneers. Mentioned Jacksonville a lot. We're gonna have to do Jacksonville too, although they don't really have any throwbacks.
I'm not a fan of the Jacksonville, any concept they've had. I mean, the original
they can
uniforms they debuted in, I think, are the best that they've ever had,
and they're kind of still in that.
Yeah, it's similar.
The same black helmet, green jersey, white pants. And they were the same for the most part.
They had an atrocious time when it was probably around the time the Buccaneers did as well, where they had this faded helmet that faded from gold to black or black to gold, and
it's weird. It's a bold move to change uniforms because there are going to be people that hate it. I'm sure there are people that loved Jacksonville's uniforms, the all gold. I'm not against having different, having gold jerseys and gold pants, but just doing it, it was Color Rush. It is what it is, but it was the Color Rush era of the NFL. But and I don't even know. I haven't seen them wear their gold jerseys in a while, but gold jerseys with black pants, black helmet might actually look, pretty good as an alternate. I think they should keep their gold pants to some extent as one of the alternatives. They wear green, black, and white already. Yeah. Throw gold into that mix. But Jacksonville's one. I guess the Panthers are kind of in there too, because they're not old franchises, just like the Texans, that haven't really changed up their uniforms. I know the Panthers have done a better job of it. They have the all blue uniforms. They have all black uniforms. Yeah. Even black helmets have been seen. And they've done a pretty good job of that. But black and that blue, I think, just goes together so well. When you have gold and a weird green, it's hard. You almost need to just change it up. Like maybe make the green a little different. And, I think teams that they're not new enough to really have a classic uniform. At the same time, they're not prestigious enough to keep that uniform. Like the Packers, the Cowboys, although it's changed over the years, but for the most part, they're wearing the same concept, the same scheme. Like, you need to change it up.
And those are two franchises, honestly, that could use a refresh.
Yeah.
To some extent, I wouldn't say Packers or Cowboys changing logos of any sort, maybe restyling and retooling the uniforms. The Cowboys could get rid of that awful royal blue number on a jersey, and everything else is a navy blue.
Yeah. I like it when
that's for another show, though.
I like their color rush all white. But I understand your home uniform has to be a white jersey with gray pants. Maybe if you leave the blue number, put gray pants with the blue or whatever, not the weird blue. To me, it was weird is not necessarily the royal blue number, but the pants that don't matter. Because you have, if that would be considered blue anyways, you have the dark blue, the royal blue, and then the pants. Yeah. Or whatever color that is.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. It didn't bother me. It's a classic look, even though that's not really what they wore. They wore gray pants back in the day. But yeah, as long as you have the same thing as the Packers, it's green and gold for the most part. You can wear alternates every now and then. And then the Cowboys white at home with the different color pants, gray, blue, whatever deal. That'd be weird if they came in like royal blue.
Yeah,
I think that's as blue as you can get, whatever color that is. But teams like the Texans, the Panthers, Jacksonville, when you're not playing good, I think that's something you can throw out there. Taking a different turn in the franchise, you get a new quarterback, you get a new uniform.
Yeah,
I think that's something. Hopefully, they're working on that, especially the Texans, because the Texans haven't changed anything. They have, they'll throw red, white, and blue jerseys out there, but they're all the same style.
Yeah,
and that's 20-something years now. We go back to 2002 when they debuted. I don't know that teams besides the Cowboys and Packers even still have exactly the same uniforms. Even look at the Patriots. The Patriots have changed it up. I think their uniforms, starting in whenever 99, 2000, right when Tom Brady was drafted in there, those uniforms going from their old red jerseys are much better. Well, I think they were a little bit lighter blue before they had after they had the red jerseys, but that is the best concept, and now it's changing a little bit.
Yeah.
This weekend is the 30th anniversary of The Sandlot, one of the greatest sports movies of all time. And we thought it was a good opportunity to talk about some of our favorite sports movies. Whatever your favorite movies are, whether you have a list, a few of them in no particular order, go ahead and comment down below. Tell us what you think of The Sandlot, what you think your favorite movies are. And I'll start. Honestly, I think the best sports movie of all time, although I can see a lot of people disliking it, because it does move slow in some aspects if you like the story of it or whatever, but that's Hoosiers.
I knew that you were going to pick that one. I absolutely knew that was going to be your number one pick that you would start with.
I think it's a great movie. I know in high school it was my favorite movie, and nobody shared that with me. I think it's a boring movie. It's slow, but you got to get into the story of it. And there's so much more than just sports. The whole message is bigger than sports, and I just think it's an absolutely great movie. And no one in my family will watch it when I have it on. They'll just leave the room.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I mean, I think you would have to. To me, Rudy's very much up there, close to the top.
Yeah.
I think.
Rudy's a tough one. I understand Hoosiers is sort of based on a true story, but it's completely fictional.
Yeah.
Rudy it's one of those when you learn the real story, it kind of ruins it. Although just think of it as more of a fictional movie.
Yeah.
The whole thing about chanting Rudy's name, that really didn't happen, and he was carried off the field, but it's when you have these true stories and you just kind of go off of them, and it varies from what really happened. I don't know. Sometimes when I watch it, I feel cheated, But then I just try to just think of it as like a fictional movie.
You know, I think even though it's a more modern movie, for me, Remember the Titans is probably going to be my for sure number one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such an iconic, it's such an emotional, moving movie. You know, that was one that was put together well. It was casted well. I think for me, that's the number one, Remember the Titans.
Another movie that has, is bigger than sports and talks about things, but it's very entertaining, very comedic when it needs to be. I think Denzel Washington is great in that movie. And that's one that maybe it's because it's a newer movie. You go back to the 80s, 70s. Movies were just different. They're less entertaining now because you have to be big and loud and bold. And Remember the Titans is kind of in that era where it gives specific information and very, for the most part, truthful. All the important parts of it are true. It's not a big variation from what actually happened.
Yeah.
I see another one you're about to talk about. I love that movie too. That's also one that can be linked with Hoosiers, where outside of the last 5 minutes of it,
it's a very slow.
It's slow.
It's hard to get
if you're
into.
a sports fan or just in general a hockey fan, you can watch it. When I first watched that movie, I wasn't a big hockey fan, but I was a big sports fan, and so I like it because the last 5 minutes of it are kind of the big thing, and then I don't even think we've mentioned it. I've just should talk about Miracle, the Miracle on Ice, the Al Michaels "Do You Believe in Miracles" call in the Olympics when they beat the 1980 when they beat the Soviets before they used. Which I think, has hockey gone back to using college athletes?
I believe so.
Yeah, I know. NBA's talking about that. Baseball's talking about, at least American baseball, the World Baseball Classic is talking about going back to using amateurs. But no, that's a great movie that, again, if you're not a huge sports fan, it's hard to keep up with. I think another one, although I don't know if this is on a lot of people's lists. It's a newer movie, but The Blind Side is a good one. But that's one that's really varied off what actually happened. Yeah. And when you know the real people, the people in real life aren't real big fans of the movie because of how it's portrayed, it kind of ruins it. But if you're not a sports fan, you can follow The Blind Side. You can watch it. You can keep up with it. There's a lot of
it tends to be that way with and I don't know if The Blind Side is. Is it a Disney? Was it a Disney produced movie?
It's I don't know who.
In most
movies are Disney now.
If Disney
at some point
produces one, they're gonna alter true stories slightly. They're gonna come out with a more entertaining movie. So those more modern Disney ones, and I think that's where the more modern movies don't get as much credit as. Say the originals,
you have to be more entertaining.
One for me, I would say number 3 on my list, just like Miracle would be number 2. Number 3 is The Natural for me. I know that is a movie that a lot of people have a hard time watching.
Yeah, it's either you love it or you hate it. If you watch it, you follow baseball, and that's back in the era of baseball when you could say it was more boring.
Yeah,
you didn't have exciting stadiums, exciting uniforms. It was just all kind of there.
Yeah,
and again, that's obviously I'll call it a fictional movie. Obviously, it's based on somewhat of a true story, but everything's changed in that movie. I think you go back. I mean, going back to producing movies to make them more entertaining, or changing the narrative to make it a little more entertaining. I understand. Go back to talking about Rudy. The main point of that movie that's not true was the chant. Like, they didn't go around chanting. But think of it. Without that, if you just had Rudy go in and make that sack on the final play, it wouldn't be which that actually did happen. He did go in and make a sack. And he was carried off the field by his teammates. But his teammates in real life are the ones who understood his struggle. It wasn't all the Notre Dame fans. And having them chant Rudy's name, building up until that moment, it was what really gives you the chills in that movie, and that's a great moment.
Yeah.
They couldn't play it out the way it really happened, because outside of Rudy and his teammates, nobody understood what was going on.
Yeah.
Maybe Rudy's family that was in the stands. They just knew they were blowing out, was it Purdue? the Big Ten school. They're blowing out Purdue. He goes in and makes a sack. Very anticlimactic if you don't understand what's going on and don't understand the story. But it is a great movie. Let's jump into have we covered all the sports? We covered hockey, baseball. Obviously, The Sandlot's a classic. Everybody loves The Sandlot.
Rocky's another one of those. I think it lost a little bit when you come out with these trilogies and these.
Keep coming out
original.
It may be one of the. I can't think of another sports movie. I guess I can think of other film franchises where the original is one of the best ever, or maybe the first two. I think the second one's better than the first one, but the first two Rockies, some of the best movies. One of the best. Couple of the best sports movies.
Maybe not even just sports movies in general.
And then it gets bad so quick. Maybe not so quickly, but it gets really bad. Halloween's one that jumps in there. Maybe Friday the 13th when you go into horror movies, where the first few are good. Yeah. Builds a franchise. Basically changes the entire movie experience, and then they just keep going and going because it makes money. Because you talk about Rocky 3 is pretty good. Rocky 4. It's pretty cheesy, but if you're an American and you enjoy or you just hate Russia, the Soviet Union back then, you like it. Then 5 is terrible. Then Rocky Balboa kind of rebounds a little bit, and then you get into the Creed movies, which are I have every Rocky recorded on my DVR, every Creed. I'll watch them when they have marathons on all the time. Sometimes you're just in the mood, you watch it.
One movie that catches me, it's just a notable, I don't know where it would even rank, but I tend to always watch it, Moneyball. And maybe because it wasn't as good, they play it a lot, on some of these channels, and it's one that I watch because the story of that Moneyball was so different, and just to see the behind the scenes, not even the sports part of it, the management side of it,
how it works.
To me, that was very intriguing to watch. It probably could have been put together a little better, but for a story
that's one that it's different in the sense that it follows the true narrative to an extent.
Yeah.
But it completely misses the point on why the A's were good.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with... The movie focused on the players that they went after to replace Jason Giambi, but really they had a great rotation, and that's kind of what why they were successful. But it can't be ignored, obviously, that the A's will just out of nowhere be good, and then they'll be terrible.
Yeah.
Without spending a bunch of money. A's who will be in Las Vegas very shortly, I believe. There's no way they're staying in Oakland.
Yeah.
A side note.
Yeah, another notable, I would say, Bull Durham. That's another good one.
Yeah, that's a classic one. That's why I like, again, going back, it's one that baseball movies are hard, and I'll mention another baseball one here in a second that I think everybody loves. My wife is not into baseball whatsoever, but she likes this movie. But Bull Durham is one where you kind of have to understand baseball. A lot of it's a couple of monologues that Kevin Costner goes in on that. It goes over your head if you're not into baseball. It's not classic lines in movies.
Yeah.
But one, again, with Kevin Costner is Field of Dreams. I think that's one everybody can get into. Now, some people may say it's overrated. It's not one of the greatest movies of all time, but you can watch it, understand what's going on without necessarily having to... Because he has little parts where he explains the rules of baseball, where if you don't understand, you kind of get where he's going with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's one of those that moves slowly, but I think is it does a good job of keeping you intrigued.
Yeah.
Without getting too far. Now, going back to Hoosiers, I understand there's a lot of non-basketball going on there. There's a lot of slow moments where you're like, okay, it goes from a scene in a game where there's a fight, and then all of a sudden they're in this farming town, and they're just having their little dialogues. It doesn't seem like it's moving the movie along.
Yeah.
Which is a criticism of movies in the 80s, maybe, as opposed to movies now. You would just add crap in there that wasn't necessarily true. Again, that's not really based on a true story, but it's definitely a fictional movie.
Yeah. Do you have any more notables that are... there's so many greats, it's hard
it depends how much you want to criticize movies and be like, okay, that's not really how it happened. I think one movie that I enjoy watching when it's on that other people enjoy. It's more geared to probably not as much as a sports fan, is The Replacements. But that's one where if you're a diehard sports fan, you watch, you're like, this isn't how anything happens.
Yeah.
The dialogue, how the players, you're like, first of all, the whole scenario of the movie is just, the whole concept's just ridiculous. But then you get into a coach quarterback conversation, like that's not how that conversation goes at all. You're like, Gene Hackman in that movie is basically just a motivational speaker. He does no coaching whatsoever. It's like you don't have your quarterback say, okay, I want the ball. Okay, winners always do, go. Like, no, that's not how that works. You think Bill Belichick, Mac Jones right now goes to Bill Belichick, says, I want the ball. Like, stay in your lane, kid. You know, that's not how that works at all. But it's, I wouldn't even say it's a bad movie where you call it a guilt movie or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's, I like it. It's a good movie.
I think I have to throw two out just because of this weekend and the Masters, Tin Cup or Caddyshack. You know, either one of those, still pretty good. You know, that
wouldn't even be my golf movie. Oh man, I shouldn't even say this. I get so much hate for it. I enjoy Happy Gilmore more than either of those. But again, that's one, once you understand golf, the whole concept is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think
that's not how you become a pro,
and
is winning a tournament.
I didn't even really consider that as a sports movie.
Well, with Adam Sandler, what about Waterboy? I think that's a great sports movie.
Yeah.
Because, I say, go back.
Adam Sandler sports movies are not as sports as, like, they're complete opposite of sports.
Outside, well, let's go back one of the, what's, God, I can't even name it. What's that Netflix basketball movie? I think that's a great movie. That's different from Adam Sandler. It deviates from Adam Sandler's sports movies.
Yeah, I think it's too new to know yet. You know, see how it plays out.
I think it's a great movie where you still get some Adam Sandler comedy if you're an Adam Sandler fan.
Yeah.
Odd comedy, but he stays in it enough. He didn't go all full Billy Madison on you. It's more believable.
And you get some actual NBA players that are in this.
And I think it's. I don't know that much about.
It was a good film.
I don't know that much about NBA scouting, but as far as I saw, what I know about NBA, that's one we can like. Yeah, that's more than how it happens, because you have this player that, since he's a good player, just undiscovered, and the trials and tribulations he goes through. It's not like, hey man, come play for the New York Knicks or whatever.
Yeah.
The 76ers is who he played for. He went, or I guess it was the Celtics he ended up playing for, but he went through the trials playing in these random scout games. I don't even know what they're called, but that's more true to it than what's the movie?
Just finding a diamond in the rough.
What's the Clint Eastwood movie where he's the scout? It's got Justin Timberlake in it.
Oh, Trouble with the Curb.
Trouble with the Curb. I believe that's probably based on a true story. I'm not sure. And again, I'm not a big baseball scout. It's a great movie, but you just discover a kid who doesn't really play baseball. He can pitch, and then you sign him to. Now, I'm sure he goes to the minor leagues in that scenario, but that's not really how it works. You don't just find someone like that and then they get promoted up. Because baseball is a game of mechanics. It's like if you can pitch 100 miles an hour and you can throw a couple of good pitches to just random people. That's different when you play organized baseball.
Well, I know we've missed a lot, so make sure you leave your comments of your, top few sports movies of all time. Let us know, because I know we missed some great ones.
Yeah, I only had like a few of them, and then we kept talking, and it reminded me of some. I just wanted to make sure we covered most sports, most of the different sports, and man, let us know if we're idiots. If you don't think, I mean, it's all what your opinion is, what kind of movies you like. Those are some of our favorite movies. Guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Leadoff. You can hear us every Saturday right here on Peak One Sports. I'm Ashton.
And I'm Tony. Have a great Easter.